Hi, my name is Juliet Jacques. I'm a writer, filmmaker and centre forward for Clapton Community, and I'm here at Adelasanti with Marcin Dudek to do a walkthrough of his exhibition NEOPLAN, which consists of an installation, video works and collages. So Marcin, can you tell me where we are right now?
We are actually in the bus, or what was once a bus. It is actually NEOPLAN. It was used by the football fans and the players of Dynamo Bucharest. For years it was parked outside the stadium and abandoned. And then in 2019 I was doing residency in Bucharest, and I did research on the architecture of spectacle. So I dive into all the stadiums in Bucharest, and I saw this park outside, and it was kind of fascinating. Immediately the bus triggered like avalanche of memories, like it was this kind of decay material, like with history of vandalism of the front glass. Everything started like kind of spark into the past. So I started like getting more and more into the history of the bus.
So I understand that your use of the bus and the installation was inspired in part by a Polish surrealist painter from the early 60s. So could you tell us a bit more about the work that inspired you?
Yeah, so the autobus of Bronisław Linke was actually, it started my fascination with the idea of a bus as an art installation. His way of depicting the society of Poland back in the 1960s was for me like revolutionary. So I saw this piece in National Gallery in Warsaw, and then really like connected immediately to the idea of away culture, like the bus, as a place of collective memory.
As I walked through the bus, I saw several video monitors showing films that you've made documenting certain aspects of football fan culture. Could you maybe just tell us a bit more about those?
I felt like the bus possessed so much history and so much energy, of its user, and almost like this seat for me was like a kind of history of the fans and players. So I kind of felt like I need to animate the seats by placing a video monitor on it. One of the videos I have people sleeping on the way to the match. I was fascinated about this moment of kind of disconnection. You travel in the group, you feel safe, you feel like protected. So there's this like found footage of hundreds of people like sleeping on the way to the match, and they're being targeted by the other fans. There's this kind of moment of detachment. You feel protected, but at the same time you become like vulnerable.
So this is one of the collage works, and I can see some shots of terraces and football fans, but there's also a lot more going on in this work. So maybe you could tell us a bit about, I don't know, whether it has a title, the process of composition, and just a bit more about what's at play here.
Yeah, so this is collage, like made on wood. Most of the material is like image transfer and the pictures are coming from my archive mostly. And then I work very often with the medical tape. So it's this plaster that is used to cover your wounds.
Now we're going to talk about a series of your collage works that deal with stadia in the United States. This first one captures the Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit, which I remember from the 1994 World Cup, watching that as a kid, and has since been demolished. So perhaps you could talk us through some of the details in this work, including how it documents what happened to the space.
Yeah, so mostly the series of American Arena is just a continuation of the larger series that I initiated 2 years ago, and it talks about history of the stadium, history of the collective space of a collective memory, and then like I create like a map, or let's say index of the historical timeline, and then I started collaging this into let's say this almost like a compressed data of the place.
This second work deals with a stadium in New Orleans, so could you sort of talk me through what's going on here?
Yeah, I was interested in like in 2016 I visited New Orleans and I went straight away to the Superdome, which was like very famous shelter during the Katrina hurricane, and of course it was like converted into refuge, which was totally fail. You know, like it was. We all hear about like Armageddonic, you know, like story from inside the arena. So I was very much interested that like sport event, sport venue turned into, let's say, a place of a shelter. I was like diving into history of it, and then I discovered that actually Colosseum also was like converted several times to a different function throughout the history. So like the moment of what the city needs, you know, like what the population needs is immediately put the sports into, let's say, periphery. I bring some artifacts also from New Orleans. So you have the 2 metal bolts that were removed from one of the houses that was destroyed by Katrina. So I like to go to the places which went through a difficult history, and collect like artifacts and bring them back into the world.
It's interesting to think about the kind of psychogeography, I think, for want of a better word, of football stadia, because if you go to a game where, I don't know, a tragedy occurred or was maybe used for political purposes, like, say, the main stadium in Chile after Pinochet took over, you know, these spaces do become quite eerie and they do take on different meanings, and it's interesting to think about how you can capture that in visual art. This is another one of the collage works, and it uses quite a lot of metal. There's also photography and other materials here. So again, could we talk a bit about this?
By starting the work, I was very much interested to reconstruct like a cage or maybe like environment, industrial environment. What you see here is like a metal front, and then what you see here, the only part visible is the cover of the Martial epigrams, which is spectacle books. Is the first description of the Colosseum events back at the opening of the arenas. So we can just activate this element and just open up the arena, the Colosseum. So it's composed by pages of ex-fans at ex-football hooligans, and I was interested about how the experience is built around the space of the arena, how many individuals wrote their, you know, like memories down and published in form of a book. And when I read this story, there somehow, you know, like I try to create like a, you know, like kind of a deep understanding of the events through my own experience. Continuing with the series path, this piece is one of the next, and then it's really like the assemblage of all the elements put together. But the idea is really to put all together, to hold all together, all these elements that just don't exist before as a one. On this piece, they become like one united structure.